Don't forget to subscribe the channel. Please like, comment and share. Today's topic is: my cousin is determined to prove my husband is having an affair, but I know he isn't. How do I get her to stop? My cousin and I are extremely close. We share the same friendship circle, we went to the same high school and college, we lived together before I moved in with my boyfriend, now husband. She's one of the people I trust the most in this world. I've been married to my husband for 2 years now, together for 6 months after I got married. My cousin came over one day whilst my husband was at work and broke down crying. She kept apologizing and saying she should have told me sooner. When I finally got her to calm down, she told me my husband was having an affair, that she'd seen him with his mistress before we got married, but she knew how happy I was, that she couldn't ruin it by telling me, but she warned him to end it, or she would tell me. She claims she's seen him with multiple other women since, that he takes them to fancy restaurants, and is very handsy with them despite being in locations where people we both know could easily see him. She said she followed him once, and he ended up at a hotel with another woman, and he was in there for over an hour. I asked her if she had any proof, and she said she never thought to take pictures, but she was sure she would catch him again soon, and I should snoop to see if I can find anything in his phone. I told her I wasn't comfortable doing that, and she got insistent that I need to before he left with me for one of his WHS, her words. I never ended up snooping. The next few days she sent me link after link to websites and forums about infidelity. At first, I ignored them, but then she would start pointing out the telltale signs of cheating, working late, overprotective of his phone, caring about his appearance more, etc., and examples of when my husband was exhibiting that type of behavior. I started obsessively reading them and analyzing every small thing my husband did. We started fighting a lot, which I would blame on him, because that's what people who having an affair do. A month after my cousin's accusation, my husband got a promotion and started working even later than he already was. In the career he has, it's normal/expected to work late, but I was so paranoid at this point that it was just another sign that he was having an affair. 2 months go by and my husband's patience finally runs out. He sits me down and says we need to talk. I was so convinced he was finally going to confess, and a part of me was so strangely excited that he was finally going to validate my paranoia. Obviously, that isn't what happened. He asked me if something was wrong. He said he'd tried to be patient and thought I would come to him when I was ready, but he couldn't take the constant fighting anymore, and he needed me to be honest about what he had done to make me so angry with him. This was probably the time I should have come clean about my fears about him having an affair, but all of the posts I had read drilled it into you that you shouldn't confront a cheater unless you already had solid proof, as it would just lead to them taking the affair underground. So, I made some BS story up about how I was having a hard time adjusting to being someone's wife instead of just a girlfriend. He asked what he could do to help, and I just shrugged it off and said I needed time. He suggested marriage counseling, but I turned it down. Months go by, and I forced myself to put on a happy act. Eventually my husband seems to relax and accept my earlier excuse behind my weird behavior. We stop fighting. At the same time, my cousin keeps pushing me to snoop. I told her I couldn't bring myself to do it, and I would just ask him if I could look through his phone. She kept telling me not to do it because he would just delete everything. During this time, I kept asking her to show me proof, since she continued to claim she was seeing him with different women weekly. She kept making up excuses for why she never took a picture until one day she sent me a picture of him and his cousin. It wasn't even an incriminating picture, it was just him and her talking/smiling. This is what finally snapped me out of the bubble, and I knew that my behavior these past few months may have destroyed my marriage, but I had to be honest. When my husband got home from work I was in a pretty bad state. I showed him the picture and told him everything I've written in this post. I asked him if she had asked him to stop seeing this other woman, and he denied ever having that conversation with her. He was understandably horrified and upset I didn't trust him enough. We talked it through, and we both agreed neither of us wanted a divorce. He ended up telling me he wanted me to try counseling, and he wanted me to distance myself from my cousin. I was defensive about the latter, but he told me we could try this for 2 months or we separated now, because he couldn't stay in a relationship which had so little trust. I reluctantly agreed, and sent her a text saying I wouldn't be able to contact her for a while, because I needed to focus on getting healthier. She was upset, but I blocked her to avoid being tempted to texting her back. My husband also sent her a letter saying he would go seek legal action if she continued to stalk him. I go to therapy, and I'm a lot better now. We also go to couples counseling, and it's really helped. My husband has been a huge help, and I'm not a paranoid mess anymore. When the pandemic hit, I reached out to my cousin to make sure she was okay. My husband agreed to this. She was really happy I had reached out, and during the lockdown things were like old times again. My husband was working from home, so there were no more claims she saw him with this woman or that woman. Now, though, with the lockdown easing, she's starting to make the same old claims again. She keeps insisting my husband is with someone else, even on days he's chosen to work from home, so I know he's not. When I point the fact that he's home, she quickly makes up an excuse about how she must have seen something. She's convinced he gaslit me into submission or something. I want a relationship with my cousin, but I can't handle these constant accusations again. My marriage is in a happy place and I won't ruin that again. I keep trying to think of a logical explanation for what she's doing, and I can't. How can I convince her to stop? Is this relationship salvageable, or shall I give up? PS. I noticed the irony of posting on here, after how paranoid reading forums like this made me in the past. TLDR, my cousin convinced me my husband was cheating on me. It led to me being in a really bad mental state. I'm getting help now, and I know he isn't, but she's starting back up with the accusations again. How do I prove to her he isn't? Tell your cousin that as far as you are concerned, this topic is closed. From now on, if she brings it up, the conversation is over. You will not discuss this with her anymore. Make sure that she understands these new rules. Then follow the rules with her. You will probably have to end a few conversations before she gets the idea. If she still doesn't stop, she needs professional help. It sounds like your cousin really believes this, which makes me wonder about her mental state. Does she want you to be single again, so you will have more time for her? Whatever is going on there, I think therapy or her would be helpful if she would consider it. I don't think there's any other way you can be married and friends with your cousin. This is a hard thing to respond to because obviously we don't know the whole dynamic of everything, but has your cousin ever shown signs in the past where she could be a compulsive liar? I'm not insulting her by asking this, because it can legitimately be something mentally wrong with someone, and they actually 100% believe the lies that they are telling. Also, when you got married, did you find yourself not spending as much time with said cousin? Is there a chance she could be experiencing some jealousy and feeling like you don't have time for her anymore, so she is sabotaging the relationship so you have more time to spend with her? I'm treading lightly here because it sounds like she means a lot to you, and I'm not trying to insult her. First of all, your cousin is showing definite signs of mental illness. But, perhaps, the two of you, as a team, need to confront her and tell her to stop the bullshit. And urge her to get the help she so obviously needs. Or, go no contact. I know she has been a great friend, but she is toxic to your marriage and utterly disrespectful of your husband. Time for this to stop. One way or another. I didn't see anyone mention this. But if your cousin is indeed suffering from delusions, it might be worth involving your other family members. Your aunt and uncle, for example. Ask if they noticed anything. Maybe arrange for her to get an evaluation. If you're honestly as close as you claim to be and want to continue a relationship, getting her help would be the best way to do so. It doesn't sound like this is some evil plan, because it's honestly just too stupid. Nevertheless, keep her at arm's length for now. The effect of your cousin's claims is to destabilize your marriage. Whether she's insane or completely sane and doing it maliciously, the ultimate result is the same: divorce. If your husband's family were to insult you, like his dad insulted you, would he take your side? Most spouses would. I'd bet your husband would. Why don't you do the same for him? Block your cousin and never talk to her again. You don't have anything to prove to an enemy. You shouldn't care what she's convinced or not convinced of. Your cousin is your enemy because she's trying to ruin your life. We've received good insights from the other comments, and I don't want to repeat any of those. Instead, I'd like to get a little into one specific phenomenon. Her stories are so flimsy. She claims she's seen him with multiple other women since, that he takes them to fancy restaurants, and is very handsy with them despite being in locations where people we both know could easily see him. This is just not plausible. For it to be true, it would mean that your cousin would have to be out all the time, and also at the same places as your husband, multiple times. And then, even though she witnessed your husband with other women multiple times, she never once took a picture. And no one else you knew ever saw him. And you never saw evidence of all that fancy restaurant spending. So, my first question is, why did the sheer implausibility of this story not raise your eyebrows? What is going on? Something not included in your post that you simply accepted, that your cousin was magically witnessing your husband's infidelity over and over and over. Is it possible that you have been your cousin's stooge much more than you ever realized? Think back to any other drama in your life before you got married. What was your cousin's role? First, I don't mean to be harsh, but I'm going to anyway. Your cousin is either insane or deliberately trying to destroy your marriage. Why do you still have her in your life? Second, you either drop your cousin or have a lifetime of drama. That is your husband. You already destroyed how much time with him. Are you willing to continue that pattern just so your cousin can be in your life? You can't prove anything to her. She doesn't sound like she's in a rational state of mind. There's no way you can prove to her that your husband isn't cheating when she's already convinced in her mind that your husband is cheating. You really need to block your cousin and stop entertaining her cheating accusations. The way I'm seeing this, you're going to have to choose to keep a relationship with your cousin or your husband. That decision is totally up to you, but I think if you keep in contact with your cousin, don't be surprised if your husband is fed up and decides to leave. I think not enough has been said about what a champion your husband has been to put up with us. I want you to seriously stop and think what you would expect him to do if one of his family or friends had an ongoing campaign accusing you of sleeping around and cheating. Your cousin is not well, is in need of serious professional help, and her actions have already affected your marriage. I'm not insulting her or suggesting that she is a bad person, but her behaviors are obsessive, incoherent and imbalanced. You need to cut her out and let her know that the only way you can resume a relationship is if she is seeking help and acknowledges that her actions were not based on reality. Can you bring this up with her parents? Tell them you're concerned for her. She keeps saying she sees your husband cheating, even when you know for a fact he's home with you. She may be having a mental breakdown. Her parents could be seeing things that are concerning to them too about her. As I read this, the moment you said you and your cousin were so close growing up, alarm bells went off in my head. Your cousin obviously doesn't want to share you with anyone, including your husband. She's doing her level best to cause enough dissension in the marriage to get it to end. This isn't something a person does who loves you and wants you to be happy. She's so completely toxic, it's not even laughable. It's downright scary. For your husband to have to send a cease and desist letter goes beyond the pale. And the thing is, she's still stalking him. I don't see how a relationship with this cousin is possible at all. She's acting like a controlling spouse and this is never good. As much as you want a relationship with your cousin, you just can't do it. She's committed to breaking up you and your husband. She's shown this is her sole motivation by never showing you the proof you ask for. And her lying about seeing him out with someone when he's sitting right there with you. That's just crazy. You should probably let your parents and her parents know what's going on and why you've been forced to distance yourself from her. She's got some serious mental health issues and perhaps her parents are in a better position to get her the help she needs. Info: does your husband know that she's accusing him again? If not, you really need to start by telling him. She clearly has a way to get inside of your head and mess with your feelings, so it's better if you tell him in case you start going down that path again. If he knows, how does he feel about you continuing to talk to her despite what she continues to say about him? I honestly think there is only so much he will tolerate of, and you're towing a fine line by trying to keep a relationship with her whilst she continues to degrade your husband. Is she worth divorcing your husband over? Edit to at, does your family know about her accusations? If so, what are their opinions? It's crazy how you got caught in a trance-like state getting obsessed with signs of a cheater and what your husband is doing that shows it, but never at all questioned your cousin's behavior until long after the damage was already done. I guess you've never dealt with dishonest people. There could be a few things going on with your cousin. 1. Your cousin is schizophrenic. 2. She's some kind of psycho. 3. She's jealous. 4. She wants your husband. 5. She dislikes your husband for whatever unknown reasons.